All right, we're back here at New Rage Gaming for round 5. I'm going to be joined. Julian did a great job this morning. We got Devin O'Donnell coming in now, so let's pop him in there. He's going to be with us the rest of the day. Devin, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing all right. Moving through this day. All right, so if you were playing Pioneer Modern Legacy teams, which seat would you be angling for?
Definitely Pioneer.
Yeah, same for me.
That's been my format of choice. I don't really haven't had a ton of experience with Legacy. I think the last Legacy like league or tournament that I played was probably somewhere in the range of like a year and a half ago. So haven't really kept up with the format. But yeah, Pioneer definitely for sure.
All right, all right. Is that now you have you settled on, at least for the moment, a deck that's your favorite in the format? Because I know you kind of play the breadth of what the format has to offer. You have a favorite
Not
right now?
Not particularly. I mean, I've been messing with like the Atarka Red deck over the past
Mhm.
week and a half. I actually got lost in the finals of the challenge last weekend with it, and I think it's in a pretty good spot. It's got a good green matchup. I've been also messing. I don't know if you've seen the kind of the bigger Gruul decks where it's like they have four
Yeah.
Sky Sovereign, four Chariot. I've been messing with those too, kind of trying to refine those decks. So I guess if I had to choose a deck for this weekend, it would probably be one of those two.
Mhm.
Obviously, Mono Green's still a fine choice. Rakdos always a fine choice, but yeah, probably one of those two rule decks.
Red, green all the way, huh? All right. Well, we are we got our next match sitting down, getting ready to go. We've got a Pioneer, we got a mono green mirror, so we're not going to watch that.
No, you
Uh, we,
sure?
I mean, yeah, we made an executive decision. No one was in favor of it, so it's pretty easy to decide. We'll see if we end up there based on time constraints or what finishes in what order. But we're going to start in Legacy teams. We got Tom Tracey, Adam Saba, and Alex Smith versus AJ Valentine, John McKinley, and James McCoury. And we're going to start in Legacy with Izzet Delver versus Yorion Death and Taxes. So Yorion no longer allowed in Modern, but you can still play it in Legacy. And here it is.
Yeah, I assume it's I've been trying to keep up, like at least look at deck lists over Legacy over the past year or so, and I believe that this is kind of the go to for the Death and Taxes deck, at least with
Mhm.
regards to adding Yorion to the deck. I think I know XJ Cloud's been like a really big proponent of that. I know XJ plays a ton of Death and Taxes, so I'm pretty sure this is kind of, I guess, stock, if you will, at this point, as
Yeah.
far as what Death and Taxes is concerned.
Yeah. I mean, it allows you to. I think one of the reasons, one of the avenues where Yorion gives you advantages is where you have, a set of tutors that you're going to play, and then you just you can fit in more situational tutor targets. Now, in some decks that comes with basic lands, being able to find enough room to fit all the basics and still run a full suite of fetch lands. Here we have Stoneforge Mystic, and instead of having to decide between 2 or 3 equipment that all are pretty good, when you're playing 80 cards, you can play 4. Why not? You've got room for it. So
Yeah,
that
there's a very interesting sword in here. I don't know if we want to give it away for chat yet. We'll see if maybe it gets fetched out. I don't think I've seen that card at just being cast at all, ever. So that'll be interesting if that specific sword comes up. But yeah, there's some really cool one-ofs here, as you said, just really expanding the tutor package with Recruiter of the Guard and things of that nature can give you a little bit more utility with
Mhm.
in that regard.
Yeah, yeah. If you want a hint, the place that probably this sword has seen the most work is in the MTG Remy video that it shows up in. So you can figure out based on that if you don't already know. Anyway, so things develop here. Of Ether Vial gets Force of Willed, and Dragon Rage Channeler enters for Alex Smith versus a Mother of Runes.
Yeah, you saw the Force of Will and the Aether Vial, definitely probably the best Force of Will target in James's deck, especially when James has the Cavern of Souls, which now
Mhm.
James does have it. Now now from now on the Force of Wills and future dazes and things of that nature are probably going to be offline at least. We're attacking right into the Mother. Pretty telling that we have, we don't have Delirium yet. Yeah, Caverns on Humans makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah, I wonder, is it even, if you want your Ether Vial to get forced, playing it off of the Cavern of Souls, I would say increases the likelihood it gets forced because the Cavern tells you your forces aren't going to be good on anything else. Whereas if you play off the plains, maybe your opponent lets it in.
Yeah,
I
it
don't know.
kind of depends. Do you know? I wasn't actually quite. I was looking at the deck list. Which land did James play on turn one? Was it a plains or
He played
or
the
a
Cavern
cavern?
first. Yeah, I think he played the
Okay,
Cavern first. All right, so
interesting.
Solitude fetched up by the Recruiter here which is one of the reasons why this Yorion is nice, is it gives you an extra white card to pick up into your hand to pitch cast Solitude, if that comes up, and certainly against blue-red, it is likely to come up some point or other. Although, yeah, not being able to attack and Delver not flipping, that's not an ideal start for Alex Smith.
Yeah, Mother of Runes just basically just being moat in this matchup, 1/2 that also protects itself, and you can't even like, attack and try to bait the Mother of Runes activation because we got 2/1/1s in the battlefield. So,
Yeah.
it's not even like where you can try to get them to tap the Mother of Runes and then maybe fire a bolt at it. It's just we it just bricks both of our creatures.
Mhm.
But flipping a Delver is definitely good here. Can maybe start to get Alex some pressure. Alex hasn't really cast any cantrips over the past couple of turns, but he did just pick up a Ponder. So
Yeah, so he's got, I think he's got Expressive Iteration and Ponder. So deciding what to do with first, and yeah, okay, playing Iteration first certainly makes sense. All right, Surveil a creature down. That's valuable. Potentially, there could be an attack for 6 this turn.
yeah, we'll see what is looks like a wasteland and a Volk, I think. Probably wants that wasteland, especially if Alex has some dazes, because notice James missed the land drop last turn, I believe, because James played Recruiter on 3 and then picked up the Yorion, didn't play on land last turn.
You're right.
So that might actually turn on some of the dazes, especially if you get to hit the cavern here,
Mhm.
which is very, very important because that certainly could be some of the contents of Alex's hand. We see an attack for 6 here now that the Channeler is turned on as well. So this is pretty good for Alex.
Yeah, and both players aware of the Solitude in hand, and James is not willing to run into a potential daze, which is a wise decision as there is one present in Alex's hand. Ooh,
Yeah,
okay.
interesting. I wonder now. Obviously, you don't have the information that the Delver's flipping there, but I wonder
Mhm.
if you may. There's the sword. I was gonna say maybe if you wanted to Solitude last turn before picking up the Yorion, you can go Solitude, then pay for the daze, and if the daze isn't cast, then you can pick up the Yorion.
Sure. All right, so there is the Sword of Hearth and Home getting nailed by the daze.
I gotta pull that one up here. I
Yeah,
forget what it does. So it's
well, I don't blame
protection
you.
from green and white.
We
Whenever it
can bring
hits a
that one up on
player,
screen.
yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah, there you go.
Not days undoing. So yeah, protection from green and white +2/+2, and then whenever it hits a player, you can exile a creature you control, kind of flicker it, and then also search your library for a basic land card tapped. I think no, it's just a base land, so it comes up land tapped.
Yeah, so not a card that's seen a lot of play anywhere else. But I mean, obviously, blinking creatures is valuable in this deck as you're playing other creatures that attempt to enable the same interactions, but not this time.
Yeah, we mentioned the recruiter of the guard that's been cast. We mentioned Stoneforge,
Mhm.
Solitude. There's plenty of things that you'd want to blink, so that does make a lot of sense.
Right. Now comes the Solitude pitching the Yorion, and Alex goes to his life total, so it looks like this is going to resolve.
Yeah, figures we already got through one of the dazes. Chance likelihood of there being a second one, and you want to make sure if you're going to target the channeler, you want to do that before maybe Alex gets another surveil trigger or something like that.
Mhm. So Alex with about double the hand size of James here, and relatively even on the board here, so looking pretty solid. And here is the big boy, the Murktide Regent.
Yep, now that we've cleared the way, now that we've gotten the solitude out of James's hand, get to slam that Murktide region. I believe Alex may have had it last turn, but obviously didn't want to run it into the solitude. So
Mhm.
makes a lot of sense to kind of bait that out first.
Right, and there are, no shortage of exile effects. In fact, probably every removal spell in James's deck can kill any creature.
Yeah, we're
But
looking at what
he, yeah,
solitude. Oh,
not
that's it.
thinking he can defeat. Yeah, that's 10 points in the air exactly. And James does not have a removal spell, and he's just dead. So okay, is it Delver up a game? So Adam Saba, can you repeat your teammate's feat and put yourself up a game? Let's hear. Let's see here. Mono Hammer versus Temur Scapeshift.
Correct me if I'm
And
wrong, but this Team Escape Shift deck, I believe, I think you played a lot of the Bring to Light Escape
I
Shift deck a
did.
while back,
I
right?
did.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that was modern as a format has evolved since then. That was even kind of four color control existed then, but there were not Yorion decks yet at that point. I mean, I think Yorion existed, but just people weren't really playing with it yet much anyway. But yeah, the Scapeshift deck with Dryad and Ren and 6 is a super powerful engine. Well, I don't know if I can call it an engine because it basically just wins the game. But we see here an Esper Sentinel that looks like it's well, I was going to say 11 power, but maybe a little bit more. Which
Yeah,
I guess that yeah,
Trample also pretty massive here as well with the
mhm,
Shadow Spear.
yeah.
We came into this game and there was a Colossus Hammer on the Sentinel, so I wonder if maybe potentially what happened was Ren and Six tried to go after the Sentinel, and then in response we hammered the Sentinel. That might have been what happened.
All right, so this is a ice on the Esper Sentinel, and there's no way John's paying 11. So Adam, I'm informed by chat, Saba is going to draw a card, and Sentinel will get tapped. And so there are certainly draws here for John McKinley that, regardless of how far behind on the board he might be, he could just win the game.
Right, 5 lands with the Dryad. For those of chat who maybe haven't seen the interaction before, Dryad plus Scapeshift. If you have 6 lands in play with the Dryad, you can get that. That's basically as much damage as you can. I mean, I can't count that high, but if you get some 4 Valakuts or something, it's somewhere in the nature of maybe about 50,000 damage.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I mean,
without the Dryad, it's usually 7 lands. But because the Dryad's in
mhm,
play, we can kind of get a little bit of a discount there.
mhm.
And
Yeah,
Fire
and
Eye is just an amazing, amazing card. Being able to, even in this spot, like usually like a Temur deck wouldn't really have answers to a resolve, creature that has 10 toughness, but being able to just tap it down for a turn, even cycling, very, very important for John's deck.
mhm. All right, so the equipment will move over onto the Pure Steel Paladin to make that a beefier blocker and just more likely to survive. Now the Esper Sentinel tax is gone from 12 down to 1 mana. And chat has picked up on this, and maybe production can look into the fact that don't believe these teams are actually 4-0. I believe they're 3-1. Here is the land followed by the Scapeshift that you mentioned.
We're
Uh,
done. That's it.
yeah, upwards of 50,000, I've heard.
We have to get somebody in, maybe a math expert in chat to get the exact count on that, but it's got to be close to that, right?
Yeah, I mean, the difference is negligible. 7 land into the graveyard.
Well, it's actually funny because I remember when I used to play Scapeshift, this is before Dryad, there was actually like this weird kind of interaction against Tron, for example, where your opponent attacked you twice with a Worm Coil and you just didn't have enough lands in your deck to actually
Mhm,
kill them. But
sure.
yeah, this kind of circumvents that with the Dryad.
Yeah. I remember there being a time when, speaking of deck size, where there was a build of Scapeshift that was running like 65 cards or something like that
Oh, the
in
J-Way
order
deck.
in order
Yeah.
to justify playing a couple extra lands.
Yep.
All right, so there's the draw from Sentinel. Okay, maybe that's an answer to the incoming fusillade of damage, but probably not. 2 Valakuts. So that's going to be um
So each one is 6
36.
damage, right?
So the Valakuts are 3 each, and the other lands are 6 each, right?
So 6
So it's
times
just 36.
30, 36.
So
Something
John
like
McKinley
that.
went conservative there. He doesn't want Adam to know what he's capable of.
We'll just say enough.
Yeah. All right, we're actually going to end up in Pioneer. All right, let's go ahead and look at how Tom Tracey and AJ Valentine are looking here in the spawn green mirror. And if you weren't with us earlier or you're not familiar with Pioneer, the fact that this is game 2 is not really relevant.
Yeah, I mean, that would tell me that Tom probably won the die roll game 1. That's at least my astute observation.
Yeah, that
It's kind
seems
of one of the only thing that matters in this matchup.
yeah, I guess the somewhat different builds aren't going to matter overly much. Chat
Yeah,
is correct
sometimes.
about the damage. We did miscount. Those Valakans are worth 6 because they count themselves twice. So
Ah,
it was
yeah.
actually 42 damage. Well, maybe John was having some fun there. All right, so let's talk about Pioneer Mirror and the relevance of Karn being on one side first.
So Karn is interesting because it stops the activation of both the Chain Veil and the Pestilent Cauldron. So as long as cards in the battlefield, it's kind of preventing sort of the infinite combo.
Hmm.
The mirror match is really really weird because at least in my experience, the games either play out where one player just has the nuts on the play, like the turn one Elf, turn two Cure, turn three Cavalier, and the game's just not really close. But there's also these weird games where you Karn for, say, like a Damping Sphere and a Pithing Needle to make sure your opponent doesn't combo you.
Hmm.
And then, but you also can't combo. So you're both kind of just like playing this weird game of limited where it's like five sixes versus four fours. And the games get really weird, to say
Hmm.
the least.
Right. All right. So we do have. I can't tell if that Love Struck Beast at the top is in play. I kind of think it may not be, just based on its offset a little bit. But that's a card that's picked up in the last just recently, right? As far as an alternative in these builds.
Yeah, so typically the mono green deck has about 36 slots that are accounted for. Pretty much every deck plays the same 36 cards, all four ofs. There's usually about somewhere three to four flex spots. And recently, yeah, Love Struck Beast has kind of picked up in popularity as kind of the additional flex spots, and it is pretty good because the bad matchups for Mono Green are kind of the low to the ground aggressive decks. So giving yourself the a 1/1, which also happens to block pretty well, especially the white deck. They have a lot of 2/1s, so the
Mhm.
1/1 from Love Struck Beast helps a lot. And then in the red matchups, the 5/5 is close to unbeatable. They can't kill a 5/5. So
Right.
in all of your bad matchups, I think it is quite a good card. So it does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it just looks like it's waiting in the wings there, also representing a free card from Kiora whenever Tom gets around to casting it.
Yep, that too. Definitely
And
relevant.
really, I mean, with well, I guess I was gonna say when you're stalled out on cards, but we're not stalled out on cards because only one player has it, which means it's kind of
Yeah.
free reign here. You can see the Godfrey statue in hand and now in play.
That one's generally not the best in this matchup when you both have access to Nykthos and
Hmm.
just basically close to infinite mana. But it's one of those things where, as I talked about before, if you kind of have like the Karn plus Damping Sphere, and neither of you can combo, and you just have the statue sitting in play, pinging them, you can imagine if the board's getting clogged every turn, and both of you can't attack, then that is a way to win the game. So
Hmm. All right, so Karn Plus is there. It can animate Godfrey statue into a 6/6 blocker. Whether that happened or not wasn't clear. There's no real risk to that, is there, in this matchup? Boseiju kills it either way.
the only thing I could think of is some mono green lists are playing Voracious Hydra,
Okay.
but it's not a very commonly played card. So I necessarily, yeah, I'm kind of on your side. I wouldn't really expect that card to be in my opponent's deck most of the time.
Well, the Karn Plus is significant on having a fourth loyalty point because Sky's Sovereign is in AJ's hand, and that I'm sure has killed many of Karn's that down take one time, but actually both of Tom's Planeswalkers at 4 loyalty. That has to be slightly irritating.
Yeah, and another very important reason, another thing that Karn does that gives you that's very important in this matchup is when your opponent has an opposing Karn, you
Mhm.
can still activate Sky Sovereign by just crewing it. Well, not crewing it, but plussing the Karn on it.
Right.
So even through your opponent having a Karn, you can still kind of get a boat attack in, which is very, very important.
All right. So another Cavalier here for AJ. Definitely ahead. Well, I guess being slightly ahead doesn't really matter. Neither player is attacking at this point.
Yeah, I think this might be one of those kind of like weird games where it seems like neither player can combo,
Hmm.
and this might just be kind of staring at each other. So we could beat her for a while.
Yeah.
Think AJ resolve or just cast a storm, I believe. Like
Yeah.
he
This is
flashed it back.
yeah. So
Cool
you
thing to
were
note here. There's a just real quick. There's a Kiora. A lot of people, maybe people don't know this, but if you put the second Kiora and the troll into play, the troll will look at both Kioras and you'll get to draw two cards. So
mhm,
kind of makes sense why AJ wants to grab the second Kiora here.
yep. All right. And then I'll give him another untap on Nykthos if he chooses.
Other than the boat, though, I don't really think AJ has a ton of payoffs left. So maybe trying to find. I mean, he does get to draw two cards off the troll, so maybe he can find something there.
Oh, does he? I agree with you that I agree that you're
Oh,
capable of,
okay.
but yeah, I wonder if AJ
Hmm.
is aware
Must have missed it.
and I think that's a something where if you're not an online player, I completely understand not knowing that because I don't feel like it's intuitive that that's the way it works.
Oh, it's not intuitive at all because it's weird because like when especially online when you cast the Storm to Festival, it asks you which cure you want to keep before you like put
Mhm.
your triggers on the stack. So you would think that well, if I'm legend ruling my Kiora before the triggers go on the stack, it wouldn't see both of them, but
Right.
it's just everything comes into play at once. It's but like I said, it's like you said, it's very non intuitive. Get a
Okay.
cab trigger though, I
This
think. I believe that's what this is.
this is another storm the
Another
festival.
storm. Okay.
Yeah. So you were dead on that God-Pharaoh statue did not have a significant impact on AJ's ability to cast spells this turn, as I believe that's
No.
4 spells, which means he's paid 8 extra this turn and still has upwards of a dozen mana just waiting to be used.
Yeah, what did AJ cast this turn? I think he cast the flashback storm. That were
His
both
flashback,
storms flashback? They were,
yeah,
right?
I think they were
So
flashback
that's
2 storms.
24. The Cav was another 7, which is 31. So yeah, he's already used 31 mana and still has, a Nykthos activation. So
Yeah, a lot of land in hand, another Cavalier. Well, we make it to a point where even, I mean, if a bunch of Cavaliers attack, it's not it's not a terrible thing if one of your Cavaliers dies anyway.
right, yeah, exactly. That's one of those things where if you have the Karn, or if for some reason you can't get the Karn off the battlefield and you can't combo, board supremacy, like making sure you have a better board.
Mhm,
So which obviously as of right now AJ does have, you can maybe theorize a world where maybe AJ has to say go. Maybe Tom can't do a ton, and then you just fire up a layer attack with everything. Maybe that's
mhm,
lethal after through just a couple of blockers.
yeah,
Um, but I think, yeah. So if AJ goes boat here, we can deal 3 to the Karn. If there's a second boat, we can kill the Karn and then probably combo off from there. Although I guess AJ doesn't have a Karn yet either. So
okay, we appear to be out of significant action here for AJ, and okay, does pass the turn. Only one of the Cavaliers could have attacked that turn, and that wasn't going to accomplish anything. So turn is over. Tom Tracey doesn't have nearly as much to work with, but also not under the influence of God Pharaoh statue. So let's see.
yeah, or the Karn. A lot less devotion though. One, two,
Yeah.
three, four, five, six, seven. I think 7 after the Love Struck Beast. So if Nykthos was floated for 6, we only have 3 floating. Untap Kiora -2 +7 is 8 mana. So yeah, if Tom does find a storm, he could cast it, but can't get a good look at his hand. I don't think he's got a lot of gas.
No. Oh, all
And I
right.
love Struck Beast. I believe eschewing the token just didn't want to burn the mana, just wanted to get the card out of it, which makes sense. The one
Mhm.
one's mostly irrelevant.
Yeah. All right. Putting some more elves together here. All right. Obviously, got something else to do. Untapping Nykthos.
It's like we found a payoff of sorts. Unclear what it is. Looks like Cav. Okay. So Cav's looking to mill Storm and hit a Nykthos. There's the Storm. No
Okay.
Nykthos though.
Yeah. Well, probably as it stands, not dead on the attack if AJ doesn't draw anything good for the turn, but certainly something is going to get knocked down.
Yeah, if we just do some quick math, we got 6 blockers versus 8 attackers. So yeah, we're not even close to dead.
Yeah.
But if, like I said, if AJ finds a Karn, the second boat or a Karn which can find a boat,
Hmm.
might be good enough because then you can, or actually just Karn, right? Karn can animate the boat, attack, kill
Right.
the Karn. Once we get that Karn off the battlefield, life's gonna be a lot harder for Tom.
All right. Let's see what develops here. I know we said we're just going to duck in on Pioneer because this matchup is not exciting. However, I think we're invested enough in this game that we'll at least give it a couple turns here. And this turn, some of these turns take a long time. Some of them will not. This turn for AJ, I don't think is going to consist of very much unless there's potentially an attack, which, I mean, actually, it might take AJ a minute just to determine whether there is an attack here or not.
Yeah, true. I doubt this game is far from over.
Yeah.
I guess I should say that. I doubt this game is far from over.
Maybe. I mean, if AJ has nothing here and Tom gets to just activate Karn to Wish, and then there is Storm the Festival in the graveyard, it seems like there's quite a bit of potential there.
Oh yeah, I guess Tom did mill over the storm last turn. That's a good point. Yeah, so maybe if AJ has nothing, has to pass, then Tom can maybe set something up.
Yeah. All right. Well, both the other two formats are between games right now, we are told. So we're going to stay here for a little while longer, at least through Tom's next turn, I would say. Chat saying this reminds them of Top Miracles and Legacy. Come on. Top would have activated, 14 things would have happened between the turn. Now, I mean, it would have been the same thing 14 times, but still, it's not the same. Not even comparable. Well, now Tom Tracey's Nykthos is going to tap for a lot more mana than last turn.
3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 12, 13, 14, I think. So make 14. Flashback Storm, 4 floating, still have a cure activation.
So what
Yeah.
else so that in general, you would sequence, you want to use your planeswalkers first, right? Before Storm the Festival?
Yeah, kind of depends. It's tough to say. I mean, it really depends. Like, I guess at that point you'd have to count like how many like Curious cards have I gone through. Obviously, like if you have less on your deck and maybe you're looking for something else other than the Planeswalkers, maybe you'd rather wait on them because you want to hit other stuff and don't want to take the Planeswalkers off of them anyways. But it's tough to say. It kind of depends.
Okay. That's a fresh one. Okay. Being cast. Consult the sideboard.
Getting Cauldron. Okay. I can't get a good look at the graveyard. Oh, do we just have enough devotion to go double Karn, double Cure? I think we do, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think we do have enough, yeah.
It's like 13 devotion, 14, I guess, with Kiora, maybe. So it's
Yeah, this if it's 14, this should be enough with just 2 cards, 2 Cures, and the Cauldron. This should be an infinite loop. So basically, for people in chat who may not know, you go get back the second Cure and the Karn, play the second Cure, keep the new one, untap the Nykthos, generate mana, play the Karn, downtick the Karn, get the Cauldron, play the Cauldron, get back the 2 Planeswalkers, and every single time you're not generating mana, but you're breaking even on mana. That's infinite life. Get the Cauldron, mill your opponent.
Yep. All right. And AJ Valentine understands that he is defeated, and the team of Tracey, Saba, and Smith is up a match. So back to Modern. Adam Saba versus John McKinley. We saw game one end with a Scapeshift for an uncountable amount of damage that turned out to be 42.
Yeah, we couldn't count that high. We had to get Twitch chat in on the fun. So
we're just trying to let them help us, make them feel useful.
All right, no more monogreen mirrors, at least for this round. And then we got Hammer Time, Scapeshift. What do we got going on here? There's not a lot of lands on the Hammer Time player's side. Also, not a lot of action. And a Chalice on 0, Ren and 6. Looks like John's been able to hit all of his land drops.
This Chalice must be wrecking house because it's hard to believe Adam. I mean, there aren't many cards in the Hammer deck that cost more than 2. Right. And yet there are, 6 cards in Adam's hand?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to pull up Adam's deck list. Adam's not playing Splashing Blue, right? Okay, let's look at...
Maybe it's all Pure Steel Paladins.
That's true. Could be Paladin because there's no double white. For zeros, there's 2 Memnite. There's not a lot of zeros here. 4th 2 Memnite, and I believe that's it. There's 1 Paradise Mantle. So, yeah, it's hard to say what... I mean, I guess there could be interaction like Blacksmith Skill, maybe. Trying to think of what else may have sideboarded in. because there's not really a lot of sideboard cards that I would bring in from Tom's side.
Well, there's a main deck card, Scapeshift, and well, okay. And Adam's like, "Do you have enough?" And John's like, "We went through this already. It's 10,000."
Well, no Dryad to play, right?
Yeah.
Not quite 10,000 then.
Well, Adam's at 18. It may as well be 10,000. All right.
Yeah.
So looks like we are on to Legacy is all that's left. Alex Smith with Delver. We did see takedown. Could they? It's not possible. The players have been shuffling for that. Okay, yeah, this is game 3. That makes
I was
sense.
gonna say we
Yeah.
were gone for a while. That can't be possible.
All right. So game 3, match on the line. Tracey, Saba, Valentine, McKinley are just spectators now, although they can advise and pitch in. Although even money on whether that advice ends up being helpful or not, in my experience in team events.
We got Alex in the play, right? Because Alex won game 1. This is game 3. Yeah, so
Mhm.
Alex should be in the play. I just want to pull up the sideboards real quick. I want to see what we have from Alex's side, if there's any anti-death and taxes cards. What do we got?
Well,
There's an explosives, which I imagine probably comes in.
seems good.
Rough tumble, perhaps meltdown, a braid.
Yeah, those all seem
Would you bring in
feasible.
meltdown in a matchup like this?
I think if I'm getting an ether vial and an equipment, I think I'm happy. Now,
Okay.
is that always going to happen? No, but players also don't know each other's deck lists, but they probably are pretty familiar with the format, so you probably have a pretty good idea. Uh, so okay, so as far as the meltdown question, are there useful cyborg artifacts in James's deck?
Sideboard artifacts? No, it's just the vials and the equipments.
Okay, then maybe not. Maybe you think explosives plus a braid is enough. I mean, you're not getting Cauldra regardless. So it's just the ether vial and some of the equipment, and it's not even the ideal equipment that James is probably going to go for most of the time. So yeah, maybe you don't bother.
Yeah, because you can't really hit like if you're hitting a batter skull with a meltdown, things have probably gone pretty
Yeah.
wrong. So at that point, it's just GTA, and the Sword of Hearth and Home is probably coming out anyway. So if it's just the GTA, and like you said, you already have the abrade, you already have the explosives, and like I guess the weird part about meltdown is, I guess on the play on turn 2, it's fine. So if you let Vial resolve, then you melt down on turn 2. But if you draw the meltdown after maybe 1 or 2 Vial activations, well, the Vial's probably already done its job at that point, you know. So
Hmm.
it's like, and it's
Yeah.
sorcery speed, which makes it more awkward.
All right. So Alex Smith looking at 5 cards. I think I didn't catch sight of the cards in hand, but I think Alex Smith's 7 had Island and Wasteland as the mana sources.
Ooh,
So I wonder
yeah, that's
if
rough.
it was a potential scenario where okay, you don't have a cantrip, so you're just gonna like, okay, I'll try and get a better hand that has both colors of mana, and then you end up on 5 cards, and that's just something that can happen, obviously.
Yeah, in a matchup like this, given the presence of the 14 planes, it's not even clear that Wasteland's going to be live in
Right.
some percentage of games, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, Delver is a good start. Flying is the way to push through against Death and Taxes, or at least it used to be. I imagine that still holds true. And
So I'm guessing that's a plow.
I believe it is.
It's hard to tell with some of these alternate arts, but
Well, it becomes a problematic though when there's alternate arts that I know I've seen before and I'm still not confident, which means I'm not actually improving. But yeah, that is a source of pleasures. All right. So functional hand for Alex, even though we're on 5 cards.
yeah, and I was gonna say, maybe a show of weakness like brainstorming on turn 2 is not ideally where you want to be most of the time, but given the multi 5, it's just that this brainstorm should be able to fix Alex's hand most of the time.
Okay, Dragon Rage Chandler with 2 known cards on top of the deck. Oh,
Ooh,
Cavern Plow number 2.
yikes! That one cannot be dazed. I believe Chad is mentioning that Alex did have the option to daze the plow on turn 1,
Mhm.
chose not to. So that's an interesting decision. What do you make of that?
That's well, we'll blow that for a second. As
Ugh.
rest in peace was the draw there. It's going to be held off for a while. So If Chad's correct on that, which I assume they are, I saw that also them saying that. I mean, the this now looked like it's a defendable play. I imagine the fact that Cavern came down kind of made Alex wince a little bit, and then
Yeah.
so I mean, you make choices, and obviously you don't have perfect information. That's what Magic's all about. This time around, boy, did that not.
Didn't work out for him.
Yeah, it sure didn't. And here's an attack with Dragon Rage Channeler into Stoneforge Mystic.
With an instant and a land? Interesting.
Suggesting, well,
I miss.
yeah, zip.
Okay, so I think
So
what happened there is that there was an attack. No, there was a no block, and then post combat we had to rough tumble,
right.
and
Well, that's definitely what
yeah,
happened. Yeah.
that's
Now
not
it's
a place you want to be in.
with the way that spells
Ugh.
resolve. If that Surveil had put the third type in the graveyard, that Dragon Rage Channeler would have lived, I believe.
Is it like Tarmogoyf in that regard, where
I
like if you
think,
bolt the
yeah,
Goyf?
I
I think you're
believe it.
right.
Yeah, I think so. I haven't actually come across this specifically before, but I'm pretty sure it would work the same way. Here's the rest in peace making into play, which is, I mean, okay, Delver is the best creature left in Alex's death at this point. That one of the only ones that's not completely squashed by rest in peace, as James is shuffling up after fetching up Empire Skull, and yeah,
Yeah,
um,
it's got everything. Should mention real quick that the cavern is on core, so that sequence of played the rest in peace, so you can't get dazed, then tap the cavern for the stone forge. Just everything's coming up Millhouse here for James.
mhm. Here's a recruiter, and plus you can eat 5. Maybe he's just attacking for 1. Maybe he's just, that Stoneforge is just
I don't
nope.
think that's happening.
Yep. Germ comes across. Well,
I can't really imagine a sequence of draws for
no,
Alex at this point.
no. There's
Maybe if the rest in peace wasn't in play and you had a stock graveyard, you could maybe draw to a Merc's Head region. But now you know about the Solitude. It's just, yeah, I'm not even sure what you're supposed to do at this point. But yeah, very, very, very good sequencing by James. And I think that game, I don't know if it necessarily was decided by the decision to not cast the days on turn 1 on the Swords to Plowshares, but
mhm,
that game is probably a lot different if the Swords to Plowshares does get dazed.
sure.
And I think Chat brought up a good point where it's you're on a mulligan to 5. I feel like maybe you're kind of priced into casting the days there. Just you need to be able to trade your cards with their cards effectively when you're on such low resources at that point. So
Mhm.
interesting.
All right. So 6 coming across here. Batterskull can actually be hard cast.
That one gets dazed though. We don't want that to get dazed.
We don't care at this point, but I guess you're right.
Not porting. Wonder why. Oh, it wants to hold with Solitude. Okay, that makes sense. Yep, so the Batterskull and the Solitude is known information. I mean, I was gonna say maybe he doesn't want to run the Solitude into a daze, but
He's just
I
clearing
guess
the
you
way
don't
for the
really care
Batterskull.
because yeah, you have the Batterskull anyways. You probably rather resolve the Batterskull anyways.
Can you
Yeah, so
Cavern
chat's
on
talking
Germ?
about the rough play. I believe that there was 2 types prior to the rough resolving, so the rough was the 3rd type.
That's correct.
But I believe that
Yeah,
that was the
that's
situation.
correct. That's what it was. Yeah, you're right. All right, so this cavern's on Elemental, and yeah, this
Yep,
is
we're
over.
done.
So AJ Valentine, John McKinley, and James McCoury advanced 2, 4, and 1. And that was that. I mean, that was. I'm sure there was some good games played in that matchup, but not that one.
That was not one of them. No,
No,
yeah, that
no.
was Mulligan to 5 obviously
Yeah,
sucks.
yeah.
Very interesting decision to not cast the days and the Swords to Plowshares in turn
Mhm,
1, and that definitely came back to backfire. We had the Cavern of Souls and the Stone Forge, then got to resolve the Rest in Peace through a days, and it was a snowball from
mhm.
there.
Yeah. All right, so that is the match for round 5, but we got some time to kill here. So I talked to Julian about this a few hours ago, but Devin, I'm curious on your opinion also. So it was announced yesterday and for some people in the chat are probably aware of this at this point, that the regional championship in America in at DreamHack next month is going to be open deck lists. And so I want to know your opinion on this. Whether you feel like this is something that is positive, or you think it wouldn't be your choice, or what you just think you don't care.
Um, I feel like I land somewhere in the middle. So I think for events that are publicly broadcasted through streams and other social medias, I think it is a good idea to have public deck lists because it's kind of an unfair advantage to the people who are in the feature match area. They get their deck shown on screen. I think it's good for those types of tournaments. Um, I'm sure that you have this experience as well back in the old days with the Pro Tours where we had scouting teams
Mhm.
where, scouting teams would just go throughout the tournament hall and just write people's names down and what deck they were playing. I highly doubt that there's going to be anything like that at the regional championship level. That was more of something that would happen at the Pro Tour level. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think that, like I said, I'm kind of medium. I kind of don't really mind either way. I think if I had my choice, I would, given that the event's not being broadcast, I believe, I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, whoa.
Um,
What is this? You believe the event? Oh no, there is coverage of the
oh,
event.
is there? Okay.
I don't believe it's been publicly announced yet, and I'm not involved in it, but I am aware that there is going to be coverage of the event, at least to some degree, and I think pretty
Okay.
extensively.
Yeah, so
What's
maybe in that case, yeah, in that case, I think I'm probably for public deck lists, but
mm, yeah, no, and I think my instinct is to be against it, just because I'm from the old days. That's what I'm used to, but I do think, especially if it's something for players who are, and there's been a couple year gap since we've had, like, big important paper events. And so there's gonna be players that are qualified for this that haven't qualified for previous big events. This will be their first time. And if your first experience is, even if it's unlikely, if some players coming around just writing your name on a list, checking out exactly what you're playing, that doesn't feel fun. That's not
no, it doesn't.
You're not happy about that, even if it doesn't matter. So it's nice to get rid of that. Someone in the chat, I didn't think of this, but someone in the chat just mentioned about partial or open main decks and closed sideboards. And I do remember, I don't remember if it was a Grand Prix or a Pro Tour, but I remember playing an event years ago where main decks were public and sideboards were public, but not with numbers.
Okay.
So you would know your opponent had a braid, but you don't know how many they have in the sideboard. And that was interesting. It was not executed well because they just posted all the lists in one place. And so at the beginning of every round, everyone ran over and found it was a disaster because
Oh
we didn't
boy.
have, mobile data for everyone to, just go look on their cell phone, their smartphone. But um, just in principle, I think I would prefer that to fully open deck lists now that we have the capability of doing that.
And actually, I saw a pretty good take. I think it was Sam Black on Twitter who had suggested that maybe X amount of cards are not publicly available. So, like, let's say the number is 15, right? You have your 60 card deck list. You can hide quote unquote 15 of those cards, and the rest are public. So,
Okay,
if for like situations like that where you're playing
sure.
maybe more of like a stock archetype, but you're playing some different slots of the last couple of flex slots or something along those lines. Maybe like partially open deck list. That was another
Right.
something that people were discussing on Twitter as well.
That's interesting. I did not see that. So you can, yeah, so you can't hard the archetype, but you can hide. And really, that's all. I think you want to encourage people to innovate and to put work in. And while open decklist isn't necessarily going to discourage that, it doesn't incentivize it either. So I think that's actually a cool idea. I don't hate that. Anyway, the way it is open decklist for everybody, which probably hurts and helps different decks, obviously in different ways. I think if you're playing, I think I think it benefits better players who are going to make better mulligan decisions against specific opponents. I think it probably hurts. Now, I haven't put a lot of thought into this, so you tell me if you agree or not. I think it hurts aggressive decks.
Yeah, for sure. Because if you know your opponent is playing something like a mono red or mono white, you're more likely to mulligan to a hand that has a fatal push, or like
Right.
if example of a Rakdos hand is something along the lines of like Bone Crusher Giant, Graveyard Trespasser, Harvester 4-drop 3 lands, you're less likely to keep that on the draw against the mono red deck because you're just going to get ran over.
Hmm.
And those are matchups where you really need to have Fatal Push.
Right.
So yeah, I think it definitely does hurt the aggressive decks, favors the mid range decks because they have a much wider range of cards and hands that they can keep. One thing I will say is it is kind of a feel bad for maybe some of the newer players who just kind of won their local RCQ and they haven't played on the pro scene before, and their first experience is, oh well, my opponent knows what I'm playing. That's not normal, or
Hmm.
that's not common. So like I'm kind of with you there. I think it does kind of suck for the newer players a little bit. But yeah, that's something to think about as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have strong feelings either way. I can see argument. I feel like this is a scenario where I am persuadable to either side if someone makes a really strong case. But I do like the kind of the hedging options, like Sam Black's idea, or the numbers in sideboard. Those seem preferable, even though that's not going to be the case. Anyway, DreamHack Atlanta, or at least the American Regional Championship is DreamHack Atlanta next month.
I'll be
Winners,
there.
yeah, so will I. Yeah, we'll run into
I'm
each
playing
other.
I'm playing LCQs though.
Oh, yeah. Well, that'll be exciting. Maybe I'll come by and watch. I actually was thinking I may be more interested. I think a lot of people would be more interested than normal to watch because because the new cards will be legal, which is going to be something else. But yeah, the winners of our team event today, as well as our modern 5K tomorrow, earn invites to the first regional championship next year, whenever that ends up being. So that's what's on the line today, in addition to the money and the prize points. This is the conclusion of round 5. Devin and I will be back in a few minutes. Stick around.